Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Skol back again with another Minnesota Vikings video. And before I get into this video, I just want to send out my prayers to everybody in Minnesota and frankly everybody around the country. I know this is very tough times with the riots and everything going on, but mainly I want to send my prayers out to George Floyd and his family. I know that was a terrible video. I'm not trying to get into it in this video, but anyways, I just want to send my prayers and condolences to everybody in Minnesota, especially. It's just very tough times living in, and there are people thinking about you. Now, anyways, let's get right into this video, though. I'm starting a new thing on my channel. It is called NFC North Week, where pretty much I'm going to be breaking down the NFC North going into the year. Obviously, these are preseason predictions, pre-preseason predictions, pre-training camp predictions. A lot can change. Anyways, I'm going to be listing the top quarterbacks 1 through 4, top running back core 1 through 4, go through every position group on offense, and be giving an X factor at the end of the video for each offense going into the year. I know I'm a Vikings fan. I'm going to try to keep this as unbiased as possible so that I'm really just giving analysis on each team. I'm trying to say if Vikings have the best quarterback, running back. I know they don't. I'm going to keep this unbiased, break down each team. This is offense, so Bears fans, you might get a little mad at me in this video, even though you guys think your offense will turn around. I don't think so. Let's talk about it in this video. Let's get right into it. All right. So let's start off with the quarterback position. This has been ran by Green Bay for the past 25 years, and it is still going to be ran by Green Bay in this upcoming year. Best quarterback in the division is still Aaron Rodgers. I know there are Vikings fans who think Kirk is better. I'm sorry, you're wrong. Kirk is not better than Aaron Rodgers. If we had Aaron Rodgers, we would be a Super Bowl team. No matter what, we would have won the Super Bowl last year if we had Rodgers. I don't want to hear otherwise. Anyways, number 1 quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. I will try to put a list up on the screen right here if I can do that. But anyways, number 1, Aaron Rodgers. Number 2, I do have our quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Oh, I do have Kirk at 2, but that doesn't mean he's miles ahead of who I have number 3, which is Matt Stafford. I think Kirk and Stafford are very similar. I think if they get the right protection, right scheme, whatever, they can both be very good quarterbacks. However, I do have Kirk just slightly ahead of him just because of what we've seen last year and what I think Kirk will do in this upcoming year. However, 2 and 3, not that big of a difference. But at number 4, we do have the Bears quarterback situation. Bears fans, you're going to get mad at me in this video. I have you last place on a lot of these, but defensively, you will be number 1 for a lot of them. So don't think I'm like a hater of the Bears. I'm not. But we don't even know who really is your quarterback right now. So I think it's fair. And Trubisky was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league last year. We all know that. However, I do think Nick Foles, he could be a big X factor for you guys. Anyways, 1 Green Bay, 2 Minnesota, 3 Lions, 4 Bears for the quarterbacks. Now let's jump right into the running backs. All right, so best running back core in the NFC North actually does belong to the Minnesota Vikings. I think the best running back in the NFC North is Dalvin Cook. Alexander Mattison, even though he doesn't get the media attention that Dalvin does, he is a very solid back, and we all saw that last year. I think Vikings are clear-cut number 1 for this. Number 2, pretty far behind the Vikings in my opinion, is the Green Bay Packers running back core with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. I think they're really solid. Not as good as the Vikings, though. And Aaron Jones really cooked the Vikings in that Monday night game last year. He was great. I think he's a great running back, frankly. They also drafted that dude in the 2nd round. I think the Green Bay core as a whole is actually really good. I think, honestly, the NFC North has a lot of good running backs. I don't think, I think the Vikings have one of the best running back cores in the league, but that doesn't mean I also don't think Green Bay has one of the best running back cores in the league. Now, moving to number 3, I do have the Detroit Lions. With Kerryon and DeAndre Swift, I think the Lions running back core is actually going to be really solid in this upcoming year. I don't think the Lions offense is going to be as bad as people might think it is. I think they got a ton of weapons, and I think if they use them right and Stafford is who Stafford, I guess I think he is, I think the Lions could have a great offense. But honestly, they have really one of the best running back cores in the league too. I would say it's top 15. And then coming at number 4, we have the Bears, who honestly I don't think the running backs are the problem. I think the Bears, if they stay with David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen, honestly, that's not a bad core. You can't say the Bears should fill that role because I guess David Montgomery, we really never saw what he was about last year because of O-line problems. The whole offense was a mess. But honestly, I think I don't think there's a huge gap between 1 all the way down to 4 for the running backs. I do think the Vikings are clear-cut best group in the NFC North. But then again, I think all of these teams in the NFC North really have good running backs. Not really a huge problem. So let's move into the wide receivers. Now, if the Vikings still had Diggs, I would probably put the Vikings at 1. But I'm not. I'm putting the Lions wide receivers at 1. I think they are incredibly underrated. With what they did with David Blau most of the year last year, Kenny Golladay, stud. I think might be the most underrated receiver in the league. Then you add that with Marvin Jones, who's also really, really solid. I think the Lions are 1, and honestly, I could see it changing throughout the year depending on if Justin Jefferson sets up for the Vikings. But I do have the Vikings at 2. I think Thielen is still a top 10 receiver in the league. And I also think Justin Jefferson, first-round talent. They went out and got Justin Jefferson for Kirk Cousins. Also, you're adding in Tajay, Sharp, guys like OBC stepping up. I think the Vikings have more of a deep core than the Lions. But those 2 wide receivers on the Lions, I don't really think you can mess around with them. Do have the Lions at 1, Vikings at 2. Number 3, I do have Green Bay. I think the Green Bay receiving core and the Bears receiving core are actually very similar, but I think Devontae Adams is just better than Allen Robinson. That's really just what it came down to when deciding this. I think Devontae Adams is the best receiver in the division. Could change at the end of this year, depending on how Thielen plays as the lone wolf. But anyways, Green Bay at 3, Bears at 4. Bears, Allen Robinson the beast. Again, this is another, I feel like the NFC North has really good skill positions. I don't think the Bears, even though they're at 4 for running backs and wide receivers, I feel like they got pretty good weapons. I mean, really, there's nothing really to break down there. I mean, I think the Lions are clear-cut 1. Vikings are also right behind them. Green Bay and Chicago, they got stud receivers, just not really filled in with their secondary and third receivers as well as the Vikings and Lions. All right, so moving into tight ends, I feel like this is one I could get a little bit controversial. Now, Vikings fans, you might be thinking, oh, you definitely had the Vikings at 1. You're a huge Irv guy. You're a huge Rudy guy. I am. But guess what I have at 1? I have the Lions. And I think people are really forgetting about TJ Hawkinson and Jesse James. I mean, TJ Hawkinson, top 10 pick in the draft. Yeah, he didn't produce the numbers he did last year. We got to think. He was a rookie coming in, and he didn't have his starting quarterback. I think that was really tough for him. I do have the Lions at 1, mainly because I think Hawkinson is going to have a huge year for the Lions. Honestly, I got the Lions. They got weapons, man, and they could really be a dangerous offense this year if I'm looking at it. But at 2, I do have the Vikings. I think Irv Smith takes a huge step in this upcoming year. Irv Smith, really, really good tight end. And then you pair that with Rudy, beast in the red zone. We all seen it every year in the Dallas game on Sunday night and the, of course, playoff game against the Saints with that catch. Vikings are at 2, not that far behind the Lions. You could probably go 1A, 1B on that. But at 3, I do have the Bears just for the sole fact that they have 9 tight ends on their roster. I mean, we don't really know who Cole Kmet is. I know he's a stud. He looks really good on tape, actually. I think he could be a really good tight end in this league. Then again, hasn't played down in the NFL yet, so that's why the Bears are at 3. 4 is Green Bay. I mean, they don't have tight ends, so besides the dude from Cincinnati, who's just a blocker. But anyways, let's move into the offensive line. Number 1, clear cut, no doubt, is Green Bay. Green Bay, best offline in the NFC North by far. Don't want to hear it. Not even close. Number 2, I do have the Lions ahead of the Bears and Vikings. I don't really know personally about the Lions' offensive line. I'm not going to say I know everything about them, but I have been hearing some good things about what they've done in the offseason. Now, number 3, I have a tie between the Bears and the Vikings. I'm probably putting the Vikings at 3 and the Bears at 4. However, it really depends because the Vikings O-line, honestly, they had a really good year last year, but then again, they were bad in really important games, I guess. They were either really good against bad teams and then really bad against good teams, which is not what you want from your O-line group, but Vikings do have a lot of potential, and I think the Bears' offensive line doesn't really have potential this year. I think they're going to be bad no matter what. And I think the Vikings, they could be a mess or they could be actually really good on Green Bay's level. So that's how I rank every position group. I know the Bears ended up in last for a lot of those, but the Bears, they're one of the worst offenses in the league, so they should. Minnesota, I would probably say best overall offense does go to us if we're just looking at like the collective group. However, I think it's a toss-up between us and the Packers. Packers still have Rodgers, and that's always scary. Anyways, I'm going to give you 4 big X factors moving into this year that could really change up these rankings that I think could really make a difference in all this. All right, so starting off with the first one, I think it's a Bears QB situation. I mean, honestly, I think Trubisky's done. I think Trubisky will not take a step forward. I think he's done. However, I think pairing Nick Foles with Nagy, that could really spike this Bears offense, and it's a little scary because if the Bears offense is mediocre, they're in the playoffs, which is a weird thing to say, but that's how good their defense is. I mean, if their offense is mediocre, bam, Bears are in the playoffs. I think if the Bears get production out of that quarterback position, they could be a very dangerous team. I think that's a huge X factor going into this year. And honestly, that's probably the biggest X factor in this division is if the Bears quarterback position can produce well. Now, my second one is Matt Stafford. I think Stafford, if he stays healthy, if he is who we all think he is, and just a gunslinger, big arm, and he can produce with all those weapons, damn, Lions have a really good offense. I mean, like in these rankings, I mean, let me look at my notes real quick. We had the running back core at 3rd, wide receivers at 1, tight ends at 1. That's really solid. And then you add Stafford if he stays healthy and can produce. Huge X factor for the Lions. Third biggest X factor in the division is the Vikings offensive line. I think this could be a huge X factor in the just division as a whole. If the Vikings get big production from their interior offensive linemen, wow, they could be special. I mean, if the Vikings O-line really brings it together this year, that whole offense would be really good. I think the Vikings, I don't know if they will. It's going to be really hard to see, but we've seen with Kirk Cousins, give him time, hit that target. He's nailing it every single time. So that's a big X factor. I don't know if it's as big as the first two I mentioned because the Vikings O-line, I don't know if it has a lot of boom or bust, so I guess it is a big X factor. That's my third one. My fourth one is the bad man. Now, when I say the X factor, we know what we're going to get from Aaron Rodgers. We know he's going to be good. We know he's going to produce, but the X factor I'm talking about is if Rodgers goes crazy. Now, we've seen with this Jordan Love thing, we've seen with all this, Rodgers could easily just flip this in his head and be like, I'm using this as motivation. I'm going to destroy everybody this year. I'm going nuts. I'm throwing for 404 every game. So that's the X factor I'm talking about, which is scary. I think that's a huge X factor. I don't know if it's realistic. That's why I have it at 4. But it could really spike that Packers offense into being something that no defense can stop if Rodgers gets back into prime Rodgers with those running backs, Devontae Adams, all that, like with that old line too. Could be terrifying. That's my opinion. I try to keep this as unbiased as possible. This is my NFC North breakdown. Starting to have NFC North week. Probably tomorrow we'll have the defensive breakdowns. And yes, Bears fans, you will probably dominate this list. You will probably be all over the number 1 spot. So don't get mad at me in the comments saying, oh, you hate the Bears. You have them at 4. No, your offense sucks. Your defense is stellar, though. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I know it's a pretty longer video, but if you have not already, please sub to the channel for more NFC North content, mainly Vikings content. Keep you up to date. Anyways, love responding to you guys in the comments. And again, prayers to everybody in Minnesota, Chicago. I know it's all going around everywhere around the world right now. Especially prayers to George Floyd's family. Love you guys so much. Thank you for supporting the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.